Hey, it's Chris, and I want to say thank you to our veterans, active duty military, and first responders for serving our great nation. You're listening to The Chris Carlisle Show, hosted by me, Chris Carlisle. And welcome. This week we're going to take a look back at the Monday Night Wars, which pitted WCW Monday Nitro on TNT against WWE, WWF at the time, Monday Night Raw on the USA Network. Plus a look at the divisional playoffs in the NFL. In the AFC on Saturday, Kansas City beat Jacksonville 27-20, and on Sunday, Cincinnati beat Buffalo 27-10. And in the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles beat the New York Football Giants 38-7, and on Saturday the San Francisco 49ers beat the Dallas Cowboys 19-12, and some Cowboy fans burned their Dak Prescott jerseys. So in the championship games, in the AFC it's going to be Cincinnati at Kansas City, and in the NFC championship game it's going to be San Francisco at Philadelphia. Be sure to check out my new podcast I've started called Highways and Byways, a look at small town life. Anyway, baseball announcer Bob Uecker, actor Scott Glenn, comedian Ellen DeGeneres, actor James Cromwell, dancer Mikhail Baryshnikov, country singer Tracy Lawrence, actor Alan Alda, actor Elijah Wood, and actress Ariel Winter have birthdays coming up.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
Okay, the Monday Night Wars lasted from September 1995 to March 2001. WWE Monday Night Raw on the USA Network, WCW Monday Nitro on TNT, WWE owned by Vince McMahon, WCW owned by Ted Turner, and run by Eric Bischoff. Both rosters had established and rising stars, and many went back from one roster to the other. Established stars in WWE were Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, Macho Man Randy Savage, the Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase, Lex Luger, and Mr. Perfect. The rising stars were Bret the Hitman Hart, the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Big Daddy Cool Diesel, Yokozuna, Tatanka, the 1-2-3 Kid, The Undertaker, and Owen Hart. Established stars in WCW were Nature Boy Ric Flair, Sting, Arn Anderson, Sid Vicious, Larry Zbyszko, Bob Eaton, Terry Taylor, Dusty Rhodes, and Kevin Sullivan. Rising stars in WCW were Ron Simmons, Alex Wright, Marcus Alexander Bagwell, Stunning Steve Austin, Flying Brian Pillman, Lord Steven Regal, Cactus Jack, and Dustin Rhodes. The commentators on Raw were McMahon, Savage, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Jerry the King Lawler, Jim Ross, Jim Cornette, Michael Cole, and Kevin Kelly. Commentators on Nitro were Bischoff, Tony Schiavone, Heenan, Steve Mongo McMichael, Zbyszko, and Iron Mike Tenay. McMichael later became a wrestler. Bischoff, with Turner's backing, signed Hogan and Savage in 1994, and he also fired Austin at the same time. He also created a cruiserweight division and brought in wrestlers like Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, and Mysterio Jr., other luchadors from Mexico, and wrestlers from Japan. Jericho, Guerrero, Malenko, and Mysterio eventually become stars and world champions. Luger showed up on the first Nitro after jumping from WWE. The WWE signed third-generation wrestler Rocky Maivia. They also signed Austin, Dustin Rhodes, Cactus Jack, Owen, and a mid-carder from WCW named Jean-Paul Levesque, who also wrestled as Terror Rising. Austin became the ringmaster, Dustin Rhodes became Goldust, Cactus Jack became Mankind, and Levesque became Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Bischoff brought in a big wrestler, 7-foot-tall wrestler called The Giant, and The Giant beat Hogan for the WCW title. Razor Ramon showed up on the Memorial Day 96 broadcast of Nitro, which I watched, by the way. Diesel showed up a few weeks later, and they said somebody would be joining them, and they made it look like an invasion from WWE, and WWE sued WCW. But Bischoff had signed Ramon and Diesel to contracts, and they began using the real names of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. The Bash of the Beach pay-per-view in a 6-man tag match against Sting, Luger, and Savage, Hulk Hogan was revealed to be their partner, and together they formed the NWO faction, and they went after everyone in WCW, whether you were heel or babyface. Meanwhile, in WWE, Michaels beat Bret Hart at WrestleMania 12 for the WWE title. Austin's ringmaster gimmick flopped, and he became Stone Cold Steve Austin. Hart took time off, returned on a Raw, and signed a 20-year contract with WWE after turning down an offer from Bischoff. Austin feuded with Pillman even though they were both heels. They had worked together in WCW as a tag team called the Hollywood Blondes. There was one angle on Raw where Austin broke into Pillman's home, and Pillman pulled a gun on him. Hogan regained the WCW title from the Giant at the Hog Wild pay-per-view, and the Giant became the first WCW wrestler to defect to the NWO. At the same time, referee Nick Patrick started favoring NWO. DiBiase, Virgil, and the 1-2-3 Kid came in from WWE. Virgil became Vincent, and the Kid became Six. One angle had it looked like that Sting had set up Luger to be jumped by the NWO. Turned out it wasn't Sting, but an imposter. Sting went from a Surfer Tap character to one based on the Crow, and Bischoff was later revealed to be running the NWO the whole time. On Raw, Michaels gave up the WWE title, saying he had a knee injury and that he had lost his smile. Hart started getting lukewarm responses despite being a babyface, while Austin started getting cheers even though he was a heel. So they had a submission match at WrestleMania 13 in Chicago, and there was a double turn. Austin became a face by refusing to submit to Hart's sharpshooter finisher, and the next night on Raw, Hart turned heel in a Raw that I watched. He apologized for his behavior over the last few previous weeks to fans overseas and in his home country in Canada, then started trashing fans in the U.S. He formed the Hart Foundation faction with his brother Owen Pillman, and he and Owen's brothers-in-law, the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith, and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Maivia, who was also a face, got booed as well. Fans chanted "Rocky sucks" and "Die Rocky Die." He returned from an injury angle turned heel and joined the faction The Nation of Domination and became The Rock. Mick Foley, who played Mankind and Cactus Jack in WCW, introduced the new character Dude Love, a hippie gimmick. Bagwell and others jumped from WCW to NWO. Diamond Dallas Page turned down an offer to join the NWO and turned face. Savage eventually joined the NWO too, and he reunited on screen with his real-life ex-wife, Miss Elizabeth. After months of silence and watching from the rafters, Sting started helping other WCW wrestlers against the NWO. Bischoff also signed former NFL player Bill Goldberg and brought in NBA stars Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone. Rodman teamed with Hogan. Malone teamed with Page at a pay-per-view. Giant turned face after being kicked out of the NWO. Conan turned heel and joined the NWO. Alex Wright and Eddie Guerrero also turned heel but didn't join the NWO. DiBiase came back from an absence, turned face, and started managing the Steiner brothers, Rick and Scott. Luger beat Hogan for the WCW title, but Hogan got it back later. Sting challenged Hogan for the title at Starrcade pay-per-view. On Raw, The Undertaker's former manager, Paul Bearer, said he had a brother who had been burned in a fire. The brother's name was Kane. A year later, Bearer revealed that he was Kane's father. Anyway, Hart challenged Undertaker, who had won the title at WrestleMania, to a match at SummerSlam. Austin challenged Owen Hart to a match for the IC title at SummerSlam. Michael started a heel, who had been appointed the special referee for the Hart-Undertaker match, started turning heel when he cost Taker the match and the title at SummerSlam. Austin beat Owen Hart for the IC title, but suffered a career-threatening neck injury when a pile driver by Hart went wrong. He stunned Vince McMahon on an episode of Raw. Michaels formed the D-Generation X faction, with Helmsley, who was now called Triple H, Chyna, a muscular woman who was Helmsley's bodyguard, and Ravishing Rick Rude. He beat the British Bulldog for the European title and challenged Hart for the WWE title at Survivor Series. Nitro after Survivor Series, Bischoff and the NWO came out with Canadian flags, announced that he had signed Bret Hart. Michaels had won the WWE title in the Montreal Screwjob. Leading up to the Survivor Series, McMahon told Hart that he couldn't afford to honor the contract they had signed. So Hart called Bischoff and signed with WCW. McMahon took heat for Hart losing the title. McMahon took advantage of it, became a heel, creating the evil boss Mr. McMahon character. Rude left WWE in protest and went to WCW. He joined the NWO and appeared live on Nitro and on a taped Raw. Nitro was live, and while Raw was mostly taped. Bischoff had given away spoilers on Raw when he was still an announcer on Nitro. Sting won the WCW title over Hogan at Starrcade. Dusty Rhodes, Scott Steiner, and Chris Jericho turned heel. Rhodes and Steiner joined the NWO, but Jericho didn't. Hogan later got the title back before losing it to Goldberg in the summer on a Nitro at the Georgia Dome. The NWO split into two factions. Nash, Savage, and Conan turned face and were joined by Luger and Sting to form the NWO Wolfpack, while Hogan and the remaining heels in the NWO formed NWO Hollywood. On Raw, in the WWE, Austin won the 1998 Royal Rumble tournament title shot at WrestleMania. Got into a fight the next night with Mike Tyson on Raw. He eventually won the title at WrestleMania, then started with a feud with McMahon to start the Attitude Era. And Raw ended up snapping an 83 win streak by Nitro. Foley also began working as Cactus Jack. Michaels left after WrestleMania and Triple H took over as the leader of D-Generation X, brought back 1-2-3 Kid, who was now called X-Pac, and the New Age Outlaws, the Road Dogg Jesse James, and the tag team of the Road Dogg Jesse James and Badass Billy Gunn. Rock kicked Farouk, who was Ron Simmons, out of the Nation of Domination, and added Mark Henry and Owen Hart. The X turned face and feuded with the Nation. Undertaker appeared the short heel turn where he joined Kane, and they both fell aligned with the McMahon. And they were in a handicap match against Austin for the WWE title, and they both pinned him. McMahon was going to name the winner the next night on Raw, but Austin showed up driving his Zamboni and attacked him. He blamed Kane and Undertaker for the attack and told them they would face each other at the next pay-per-view with Austin as the guest referee. They then broke McMahon's leg after he flipped them off. He told Austin he would fire him if he didn't count a pin on either Kane or Undertaker. He stunned both of them in the match, and McMahon fired him. The next night on Raw, he took McMahon hostage, dragged him to the ring in a wheelchair from the leg injury, threw him in the ring, handed him an envelope, and put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger. It was a toy gun that made a flag pop out that said Bang 316. McMahon went all over himself. The envelope had a contract in it. Apparently, Austin had been re-signed by McMahon's son Shane. McMahon then formed the Corporation faction, along with retired wrestlers Jerry Briscoe and Pat Patterson. He later added Ken Shamrock, a new wrestler named Test. There was a tournament for the WWE title at Survivor Series. Shane McMahon turned on Austin in the match, and Rock, who had been a face, turned heel in the final against Foley and joined the Corporation. Over on in WCW, Nash beat Goldberg at the Starrcade for the WCW title. 2 weeks later, on the return match, which was supposed to have been on Nitro, didn't happen because Miss Elizabeth accused Goldberg of stalking her, and he was arrested. As Goldberg was being put in the police car, Nash and Hogan exchanged words, and Hogan eventually accepted a challenge from Nash. Hogan won the title back when Nash laid down for him in what came to be known as the Finger Poke of Doom. Early on the show, Giovanni on orders from Bischoff gave a spoiler that on a tape Raw, Mankind would win the WWE title. He said derisively that it would put butts in seats, but the comment backfired when viewers switched over to Raw. The Rock got the title back soon after, at the halftime Heat special during the Super Bowl. Undertaker turned heel for good and formed the Ministry of Darkness faction, Paul Bearer, Bradshaw, Farouk, Gideon, Edge, Christian, and Gangrel. They talked about a higher power and stalked McMahon's daughter Stephanie. Austin challenged The Rock for the title at WrestleMania, and on one Raw he rolled to a ringside in a beer truck and hosed down Rock, Vince, and Shane with beer. He beat The Rock at WrestleMania for the title. The next night on Raw, Undertaker kidnapped Stephanie, and she was rescued by Shamrock, turning him and Vince face. Edge, Christian, and Gangrel also turned face and formed the Druids and broke away from the Ministry. Undertaker kidnapped Stephanie again after the Backlash pay-per-view and tried to marry her, but was stopped by Austin. Shane stayed heel by admitting that he had planned Stephanie's kidnapping, and they merged the corporation with the Ministry to form the Corporate Ministry. He and Undertaker started again talking about the higher power, and on a Raw, higher power came out and removed his hood. It was Vince McMahon. He had apparently concocted the plan to screw over Austin. The plan backfired, however, when his wife Linda resigned as the CEO and named Austin her replacement. Austin set up a match between him against Vince and Shane at the King of the Ring pay-per-view. McMahon later stipulated it would be a ladder match with the rights to ownership of WWE in a briefcase, and they won the match. Meanwhile, over on Nitro, the NWO was starting to run out of steam. Bischoff left. Well, WCW brought in Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara, who had been writing for WWE. They became the powers that be, and Ferrara did a parody of Jim Ross. Jericho and Giant eventually left for WWE. Giant became the Big Show. Others would soon follow. Bret Hart would suffer a career-ending concussion in a match with Goldberg. Meanwhile, his brother Owen was killed in an incident at a WWE pay-per-view where he was being lowered from the rafters before his scheduled match, something WCW had been doing with Sting. And Nastro's ratings started to go down. On Raw, Stephanie started dating a wrestler named Test. Shane and Vince were first opposed to it, but had a change of heart and turned face. They got engaged and were to be married on Raw. But Triple H came out and showed that he had married a drug Stephanie in Vegas. So a match was set up between him and Vince at the Armageddon pay-per-view. If Vince won, the marriage would be annulled, and if Triple H won, he and Stephanie would stay married. Although Triple H had reformed DX by that time. Triple H won when Stephanie turned heel on her dad. She cut a promo the next night on Raw and told Vince it was payback for him using her in the plot against Austin. At the same time, WWE signed a 1996 Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. Bischoff returned to WCW and teamed with Russo on screen. They vacated all the titles, and they started focusing their attention on younger talent. The younger talent was called the New Blood, and they were portrayed as heels, while the older wrestlers, Hogan, Flair, etc., were called the Billionaires Club and were billed as faces. And they started playing hot potato with the WCW title, going back and forth from several wrestlers, including Diamond Dallas Page. Actor David Arquette even won it, and Russo even put it on himself. The Bash at the Beach pay-per-view in 2000, Jeff Jarrett, who was the champion at the time, laid down and let Hogan pin him. Hogan would turn babyface and return to his Hulkster character. So that was the reason the company was in such bad shape and walked out. Russo came out and cut a promo on Hogan's backstage influence and told fans they would never see Hogan again and gave the belt back to Jarrett. Booker T won the title over Jarrett later that night, and Hogan never again appeared on Nitro, and ratings for Nitro continued to go down. They tried unsuccessfully to turn Goldberg heel, even did an unsuccessful heel turn for Sting. The WWE was a family-owned company owned by the McMahons, which took it public in 1999, while WCW was a subsidiary of Turner Broadcasting and eventually AOL Time Warner. Tina Turner always supported WCW, as wrestling had always been one of his highest-rated programs. But other TBS executives didn't like it and wanted him to get rid of it. They got their wish when the company merged with Time Warner and eventually America Online. In early 2001, Fusion Media, a group led by Eric Bischoff, made a bid to buy WCW. As part of the deal, Nitro had to stay on TNT, and Thunder, which had debuted in 1998 on TBS, also had to stay on. But the WCW shows were canceled by Turner, and as a result, the deal with the group fell through. Finally, WCW's trademarks, video library, and contracts of at least 25 wrestlers were sold to McMahon and WWE on March 23, 2001. The last Nitro aired on March 26th from Panama City Beach, Florida. The last match was between Flair and Sting won with his Scorpion Deathlock. He and Flair hugged after the match. Meanwhile, on Raw, McMahon cut a promo bragging about buying WCW, and Shane McMahon showed up, who by that time was playing a face against his father's heel, appeared on the feed from Nitro and said that he had bought WCW. Most of WCW's top stars like Flair, Hogan, Nash, Goldberg, and Sting had contracts with AOL and weren't part of the sale. So they tried to push the wrestlers from WCW as faces, and they brought over one of them was Booker T, who later became a star in WWE, who was the last WCW champion. They weren't well received, and most of them were mid-carders. No other big name other than Booker T was DDP, Diamond Dallas Page. They were joined by wrestlers who worked for another different promotion, ECW, and they turned heel. Shane was joined by his sister Stephanie, who in storyline had bought ECW, and Paul Heyman, who had owned ECW. Stone Cold Steve Austin turned on WWE and became the top guy in a group which was called the Alliance. The angle ended when WWE had a winner-take-all match at Survivor Series, which they won. As a result, the WCW ceased to exist. WCW's top stars eventually joined WWE. Flair joined the night after Survivor Series, telling McMahon he was the one that Stephanie and Shayna had sold their shares to buy ECW and WCW, and thus becoming the on-camera co-owner with Vince McMahon. Hogan, Hall, and Nash eventually arrived in early 2002 and reformed the NWO. Goldberg joined in 2003. The last holdout was Sting. He finally joined in 2015, and he and Triple H faced off at WrestleMania. The two top factions in the two companies came out during the match. DX came out to help Triple H, and the NWO came out to help Sting. Bischoff said in an interview that he realized WCW was doomed during a meeting with the AOL Time Warner executives in 1998. He realized discovered their indifference to the company. WWE eventually split its roster between its two shows, Raw and SmackDown. They also launched NXT, first as a kind of reality show with new signees to WWE being mentored by established WWE stars. It later became the company's developmental territory for new wrestling talent. It launched its own online streaming service and on-demand service, the WWE Network, in 2014, which was later merged with the Peacock from NBC. It showed NXT from 2015 to 2019, as well as other programming like their pay-per-views and programs from the territories that once existed in the U.S., including WCW. I still watch WWE when I have time. I have been to a few Raws over the past few years, and I also went to the Elimination Chamber and the 2020 Royal Rumble, as well as the NXT vs. NXT UK Worlds Collide event. There are some wrestling podcasts that talk about the Monday Night Wars. There is 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff, and What I've Been Doing with Tony Schiavone on the WCW side, and for the WWE side, it's Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard, and Gruel and JR with Jim Ross. All shows are co-hosted by Conrad Thompson. Well, that'll do it for this week. Leave a like and a rating, and I'll see you next time. Hi, I'm Chris, and thank you for listening to my podcast, The Chris Carlisle Show. The Chris Carlisle Show is available on Spreaker. Please leave a like and a review, and also a follow. It's also available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeart, Podchaser, and Podcast Addict. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.